Hello, welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather, this is Tori, and today we're going to be showcasing the Capralite milker that I just bought. So I haven't had this milker for long, but I definitely expect to. This milker is wonderful. I was kind of intimidated by machine milking at first. I figured it was going to take me a while to get the hang of it. I figured it was going to take my goats a while to get the hang of being machine milked, but it really hasn't been a struggle at all. It's actually been a really big relief because right now I'm milking 9 does, and that's a lot on your arms, especially when you've got high milkers that really produce a lot. I really feel like in the 10 days that I've had this milker that it's improved my quality of life. It's improved my enjoyment of what we do here because I'm not doing it with a whole bunch of pain. All right, so it's almost time to bring the girls in, but before we do that, I want to show you a couple different features and show you exactly how this thing works. So with this particular vacuum system, they made it really easy to tell which lines go where. So they have made the vacuum pump lines that are for the air that create the suction. Those have a black line, and all of the tubes that will contain milk have a blue line. And that's really simple, and I really love that. The machine comes with a pulsator, and what this thing does is actually creates that kind of alternating milking action that I really think makes a difference in the comfort for the animal and genuinely in how much milk you can withdraw. So I have seen milkers and I've used milkers that just have a constant suction, and to me, and in my experience, that just causes a whole bunch of inflammation. That makes the teat really swollen and it makes the milk hard to pass. And it seems like it's just not really the whole point of it all. It's supposed to be easy and comfortable both for you and for the animal, and a machine with a pulsator really helps achieve that. Down here we've got our gauge. We can tell how much pressure we've got in here. They have it coming to you already set to be at about 10 to 11 pounds of pressure, I think it is. I'm not exactly sure of the correct unit of measurement for that, but they've got it set and ready to go. So all you have to do is attach a couple tubes and you're ready to plug it in and get to milking. So if you are worried a little bit about assembling all these tubes and what they do, it comes mostly assembled, but Capralite did put together a series of videos that help you put the thing together, and I'll link those in the description box below. I've watched them a couple times just to make sure I knew what I was doing. They're super clear and it was very easy to put together. I have this tape on Margie's teats because I've got a couple of her doelings that I'm keeping that I want to wean, but I also want to keep them with her full time. That tape helps them not nurse. So just like you normally would with milking, you clean the udder real nicely and take out the first couple streams of milk. So here are the inflations. I'm using the Nigerian inflations for all of my goats. These work very well even for standard sized goats. And I have these shut-off valves here on the tubes. This helps a lot to be able to hold the suction on one tube while you're trying to connect the other one. Otherwise, there would be a lack of suction because one or the other end would be open, and it would just be hard for these to attach. So the shut-off valves are really nice on these. The on switch is on the handle here, and we're ready to attach. So the hoses with the black lines here provide the suction, and the hoses with the blue lines transport the milk. So as the flow kind of starts to slow down on its own, I just like to come behind and massage the udder a little bit to help encourage a little bit more of that milk to come down. And when everything is done, it comes time to take off the tubes. I just close the valve here on both sides and break the suction with my fingers, and it's off. There is usually a little bit of milk left in the udder, as with any kind of milking system, so you want to go in behind and make sure that you hand express the last tiny bits. That's all that was in there, not much. So before Margie loses her patience, I am going to tape her teats again. There we go. That'll keep her girls off. I've noticed that some goats really respond better to hand milking and some goats really respond better to machine milking. Some of my goats just let all their milk out regardless. Some of my goats, like Christine, really like to hold their milk back no matter what, but usually a good amount of udder massage does the trick and they eventually let that milk down. Come on, girl. Quite a few first fresheners this year, and I've got one skittish goat, and I find that they are tolerating the machine milking much better than they tolerate hand milking, especially when they're full. When they're full, sometimes first timers or skittish goats, some goats that eat really fast, they don't have the patience that it takes to be hand milked out fully. And in my experience, those goats tend to tolerate the machine milking much, much better. Little Miss Barely here, she has the tiniest teats in all the land, and it still works for her. She still has triplets on her right now, so not much is coming out, but all of this is really good training for her. I have not milked her very much really since I've had her because I don't enjoy milking her udder because she's so low to the ground with her short legs and her teats are so tiny. She just hadn't been worth milking for me until now. This makes it possible. Now we're at the part that I actually dreaded the most before I got this milker. I didn't realize that these were so easy to clean. The problem I was having is that there appears to be many different ways to clean your milk lines. And there's probably wrong ways to do it, but there's also a whole bunch of right ways to do it. I don't think I've exactly landed on my routine. I don't know that I've figured out exactly what I will end up doing for the long term, but I'll show you guys what I'm doing, at least for right now. I'm doing a lukewarm water rinse, a soap rinse, and then an acid rinse. And we actually get to use the machine itself to clean it, which is really awesome. I'm going to take my inflations here and open them up so that we can get the water coming through the lines freely. I'm going to stick the inflations in the water. This is just lukewarm water, nothing else. And I'm going to turn the machine on. From what I understand, if you run hot water through it initially, that's going to make a biofilm kind of accumulate on the inside of the lines, and that biofilm is going to be where a lot of bacteria can stick to and grow. The lukewarm water rinse doesn't allow those proteins to start to break down and stick, and it flushes them straight through. But now we can run through hot water with soap. I have this dairy soap here. It's called Super Soap, and I'm going to use 1 ounce per gallon, so I'm going to probably use 1.5 ounces. For each of these steps, I like to use about 1.5 gallons of water, and in between each, I am dumping it just so I don't risk backlogging the system with my cleaning solution. It's not a complete catastrophe if you happen to run liquid through the vacuum lines, but it's just something I don't feel like dealing with, so I try to avoid that. Got this little cup that comes with. I'm going to put about 1.5 ounces of soap in, and then I want the water to be at least 120 degrees. I happen to know that our hot water heater is set to 135, so I'm just going to fill it up with that water. So here's our hot water and soap. You can buy a low or no sudsing type soap. The suds help me feel better. I feel like soap that doesn't suds maybe doesn't work. I'm sure that's not true, but the suds help me feel like it's working. So I'm going to put the inflations in just like we did before, turn it on, and with this step I'm actually going to be taking it in and out of the solution a little bit just to allow those bubbles to really fill the lines and kind of scrub them out. See how it's basically just water? When I lift it up, It allows those bubbles to come through and gets a little bit more scrubbing action, if you will. Good and sudsy. I'm going to take a little bit of this soap and just kind of scrub the lines a little bit, and then we're going to end with our acid wash. So I got the soapy water all dumped out of the canister here, and this is the part of the process that I think I'm not quite settled on. So right now I'm doing about 1.5 gallons of cool water with a nice decent glug of regular old distilled white vinegar as my acid rinse. So the whole point of the acid rinse is to leave like an acidic environment inside the lines, because that's going to help prevent bacterial growth. I'm using a lot of vinegar because this is only a 5% solution, and I want it to be strong enough inside the lines to do what it's supposed to do. And they make much stronger solutions. I'm just afraid of kind of dumping that just anywhere on my property. I know you can probably heavily dilute these things, but I'm going to be doing this every day. And so I'm trying to be mindful of what I'm just throwing out onto the land. And so for now, this is what I'm doing, unless I can find some kind of other option that is more or consistently effective and is also okay just to dump outside, because that is my option. If you have any suggestions or tips or anything like that, I would really love to hear it. But for now, I've got my cool water, decent glug of vinegar, and we're going to rinse it through. I like to let it run for just a few seconds, just to allow the vacuum to kind of pull some air through and help dry it out. But then at this point, it's just a matter of detaching the lines and hanging them to dry. This little part to the vacuum pump system also gets a little bit of condensation in it, so I like to take this apart and kind of let this air dry like this. So even though there's no milk running through these spots, these areas of the pump, I like to have them dry in between milkings. Helps me feel good about them not growing anything funny. So the canister here did get a good amount of washing while we were doing the line cleaning in there, but it does need a good scrubbing. So I'm going to take this inside, wash it like I would any other dish, and then we'll be ready to milk again in the morning. I don't think that there's really anything that I dislike about this milker. One of the things that I'd like to change a little bit is I think I need some like all-terrain wheels on this thing because of our situation here. We kind of have to drag it through a little bit of a thick pasture situation, and in the winter time it may be a little bit muddy, so a little bit of an all-terrain upgrade may be in order, but that's not the biggest deal ever, for sure. It takes me about 2 hours to do my morning milking chore with this milker, and it's not really that different from what it took with hand milking. So yeah, the cleaning part of it is a little bit longer than just cleaning a couple pails, but the amount of time that it saves me in milking, it kind of washes out, and really you can't put a price on not having really bad issues with my tennis elbow. There's a lot of things that I do on this farm, and milking is only one of them, but it's pretty intense as far as an arm workout goes. And this milker has helped relieve that pretty much entirely. I am able to actually weed the garden pretty fully now and not have a really bad issue with my elbow. And also, like I mentioned before with Barely, it helps make a less than ideal udder or a less than ideal goat able to be used a lot more fully, and that has a lot of value as well. So this has brought me a lot of physical relief and also a lot of mental relief. I can relax and enjoy milking a lot more with this machine. So we're starting to get into the summer. It's super hot really early. Actually, my camera died because of the heat at 7:30 this morning inside the barn, which is ridiculous. So when you're dealing with a lot of heat and you're also dealing with first fresheners, and it can get kind of aggravating dealing with goats who really aren't used to milking. It's not their fault. But this machine, I really feel like the first fresheners prefer it. It's a lot easier of a process every morning, and it helps just make things work a lot smoother. So was this machine expensive? Yes, it was. We bought, this is the Herdsman. There's two different versions. There's the Showman and the Herdsman. And this, with the upgraded canister that I bought, was just under $2,400 shipped. That is an investment up front. That's absolutely right. For me, because of the reasons listed, I feel like it's going to be so worth it. This is going to last for decades, literally, and the support that the Capralite team gives is really helpful. I had a question when my canister arrived and I emailed them. I got an email back within 5 minutes. It was amazing. And their helpful resources that they have on putting it together. If you happen to need to take the pump apart and clean that up, let's say you accidentally backed milk up into the system, they've got videos on that, and they're always there to help you. This is an American-made product. The company is owned by veterans, and I really feel good about all of that. So if you have any more questions, leave them for me in the comment section down below. I haven't had this very long. I am converted. I have had such a heart for hand milking, and I still have a heart for hand milking. But this really helps, I think, elevate what we're doing here and helps make so much more possible for me.